Welcome to Decision Vision, a podcast series focusing on critical business decisions. Brought to you by Brady Ware & Company. Brady Ware is a regional, full-service accounting and advisory firm that helps businesses and entrepreneurs make visions a reality.
And welcome to Decision Vision, a podcast giving you, the listener, clear vision to make great decisions. In each episode, we discuss the process of decision-making on a different topic from the business owner's or executive's perspective. We aren't necessarily telling you what to do, but we can put you in a position to make an informed decision on your own and understand when you might need help along the way. My name is Mike Blake, and I'm your host for today's program. I'm a director at Brady Ware & Company, a full-service accounting firm based in Dayton, Ohio, with offices in Dayton, Columbus, Ohio, Richmond, Indiana, and Alpharetta, Georgia, which is where we are recording today. Brady Ware is sponsoring this podcast. If you like this podcast, please subscribe in your favorite podcast aggregator, and please consider leaving a review of the podcast as well. So the topic that we're going to do today, and if all goes well, this is going to be released right before or on Valentine's Day, is couples that go into business together. And I find this an interesting topic. And as it happens, my wife actually came in earlier today to do another interview on selling over the Amazon, over Amazon as a retail channel, where, she's very good at that and I know nothing. But, early in our married life, every time that we tried to have our business lives intersect with one another, it was usually ending up with one of us doing an internet search for divorce attorney. It did not work particularly well, and we both recognized that. We tried to stay away from that. Over time, it's gotten a little bit better. She's like, yeah, now you can ask me about how the business is going if you want. That's about it. But you probably won't have to sleep on the couch. And I'll kind of be on the same way. You can ask me about the business if you want, and I may or may not decide to sleep on the couch. So I have admiration for people who are able to do that. It doesn't mean that I think our marriage is bad. We're 20 years together, and she hasn't thrown me out yet. And every day I go home and the key works is a blessing for me. But I do think that I've noticed there are couples that have that capacity to work together. And I know that I'm not the only person that's curious about that, especially in today's world where, the nature of jobs are different and people going into business for themselves. It's really never been easier. I think we're seeing that, more and more and more. But how do you manage the dynamic of a romantic relationship being intertwined with a business relationship? So, as I said, this is not something that I am at all an expert on, except that I know that for my personality type, we're staying away from that. So we've brought in people who can talk about that with us because they appear to have been doing it successfully. And if not, maybe there'll be some radio drama instead. So either way, this is going to be a win for the listener. Joining us are Carol and Steve Docalavich, who are co-founders of yourLTL. LTL, or less than truckload, software platform that provides a visual dashboard of shipping cost allocations, load manifests, shipment tracking, and discrepancy alerts. yourLTL is cloud-based and is continuously enhanced to improve the customer experience, dedicated to simplicity and return on investment for your less than truckload shipping. They're also co-founders of Vestra Logistics, a freight brokerage company, and both firms are located just down the road here in Alpharetta, and they also do some real estate management and investing together. Carol, in particular, is a serial entrepreneur, having launched several businesses in coffee, tea, import-export, franchise, advisory, property management. And Steve comes from a background of having been an air traffic controller for 23 years. So thank you for making sure I landed safely all those times.
You're welcome, Mike.
Carol and Steve, thanks for coming on the program.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
So, how long have you been married and how long have you been in business together?
8 years on the 14th. 8 years on the 14th.
Of this month?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. That's great. And so, I mean, which came first?
Match.
Yeah. So
Match.com.
No kidding.
Yeah. That's because Tinder wasn't around at the time.
Well, timing is everything, right?
That's right.
So, at what point, I mean, So you found each other on Match, and at that point, did you start to realize that both of you kind of had an entrepreneurial bent, that you wanted to be in business for yourselves, or
No?
How did that evolve?
Not at all. She was already in business for herself. Actually, we had met. I was an air traffic controller in California, and we didn't meet, but we met only because through one of her businesses. I moved from California to Washington Center, which is in Northern Virginia. And when I moved, the FAA moved me, and the movers broke or scratched every piece of furniture I had. And so I called the moving company, and I said, "Hey, what do I do about this?" I said, "Don't worry about it. We're going to send over a van. This guy, he's magical." So they sent over a van, and it was called Furniture Medic. I didn't know what that was. Well, he came in an hour later. Everything was perfect. I was like, "This is amazing." I never forgot about it because that was in 1996. I met her in 2012. And she is the founder of Furniture Medic.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so how did you get to meet the owner then? I mean, were you such a pain in the ass that you escalated? Said, I want to speak to the owner. This is unacceptable.
What I'm saying is I surreptitiously, I figuratively met her through her business. And then in 2012, we actually were out on a date. So
we sold that business to I'm trying to think which company, if that was with Landmark, but Service Masters, who actually bought that business. And so that was much before his time. So
yes, I was controlling airplanes. I was making sure you were safe, Mike.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And a few businesses more, a divorce. And then we met on Match. We actually met in June. You hate when I tell this story, but we actually met in June.
Okay. It's just the internet.
Before we officially started dating in November. He sent a couple emails, and apparently I didn't respond, so I must not have been interested at the time. But no, we met in November, just before Thanksgiving, and we married 6.5 weeks later.
So this is an example of how she has to win, Mike. So she has to say preemptively that I ignored his emails before I acknowledged his emails. So
but it certainly turned out. It certainly turned out all right, and there's a pretty quick turnaround, 6.5 weeks.
Yeah, 6.5.
So I guess as an entrepreneur, you're just used to making important decisions fast.
That's right. Absolutely.
And since I'm an air traffic controller, I just make bad decisions.
Well, you certainly have to
Terrible.
make. If I've learned anything from pushing 10, you definitely have to make decisions quickly too. There, right?
Absolutely. And drink.
So I was in the real estate business at the time, just after the crash, and had been flipping homes and doing rental homes, about 30 or 40 a month at the time. And so we got married, and I said, "Look, why don't you join? Why don't you join the company? After you retire, and that sort of thing." So we kind of went down that path, and so he started working with me when he could. He had not retired yet, so he soft stepped into it.
It just so happened I lost my medical at right around that time, so I had to retire. I either retired or got an office job. So I just said I'll retire, and then I got an office job with her. So
you lost your medical clearance to do that job,
right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
I didn't know that. Okay,
yeah. That's why I was only in there for 23 years instead of 30.
I figured you just burned out.
Yeah, I was burned out.
There's got to be some burnout in that job.
I was burned out at 15. Yeah.
So, and at that point, then, I mean, interestingly, then you didn't have any hesitation about joining the business and being around and involved with each other all the time, because not every married couple necessarily wants to or thrives doing that.
Well, I mean, it was new. I didn't know what that would be like. It seemed to me I wanted to spend all the time with her I could. So, hey, why not? Let's work together. And when we were doing this, there was a property management company in Atlanta that was managing thousands of homes. They were doing it for one of these. I think it was Blackstone.
No, they were doing it for it was Key, but they were at the time, and there's still a lot of this around. But investment companies were selling properties to overseas investors. And so they were managing these overseas investors, and they got bought out, you're right, by Blackstone.
Right.
And then so all the ones that weren't going to be owned by Blackstone, they they said, let's go find other management. So we took over a chunk of about 300 houses at one time for this management.
And we didn't even have a business at the time for managing that. We had to build one immediately to do it.
We did it in about 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh, it was incredible. And I quit. That was that's one of the businesses we did. And I said, look, you and I can't do this together, because it was the most negative business I've ever seen.
Why? What about it was so negative?
Nobody's happy. Owners aren't happy. Renters aren't happy.
So all the owners are international, right? So everything that goes wrong, they're mad about.
Yeah.
And the houses that these people were renting were, they'd have problems, and they were mad. So it was, I think we built it to 500-600 houses and sold it. She was already selling to all these international buyers anyway, so she had that relationship. So we kind of sold that portion of the business and kept the houses though.
Yeah, our houses.
Yeah, our houses.
Our houses, and then sold those off separately. Actually, to Blackstone was who brought our portfolio.
Thank you, Blackstone.
He came back on board after that.
Yeah.
So he retired for just a second.
Yeah, it's about
Like one of the Brett Favre retirements.
Yeah, I was a month, and then I went to the Eagles. Right.
So, Steve, let me start with you then, because you're transitioning from air traffic control, a government job, I guess, right? I think it's all government. It's all government jobs, right? And now you're going to be an entrepreneur in the real estate business,
right?
Do you know anything about real estate? Were you any good at Monopoly?
Define anything. No,
Were you any good at Monopoly? Do you know you're supposed to get the blue properties?
Yeah, Park Place and Boardwalk. Yeah. Absolutely. It was easy. it was. All you have to do is lean on her, and she. I went and got a cup of coffee for her every once in a while, and made some copies, and I came up. I'm an idea guy, Mike. So I get a lot of good ideas. I think today was an idea of mine. That was probably a mistake, but no, it's easy when you got somebody who knows what they're doing. So she's taught me a lot over the last 8 years.
Now, how about you? You're obviously, you've got an independent streak to you, right?
Just a little.
Which is why you've been in business for yourself as long as I can kind of track your career, right? Yeah. And now here comes this interloper that's going to come in and sort of share the wheel with you. Was that hard? Or is it scary maybe? Was there any concern about that, or?
I guess probably at first, I figured if you can direct hundreds of airplanes at one time, you probably can handle pretty stressful situations.
That's fair.
So I figured the stress he could endure, and then the rest of it was just, he's a pretty intelligent guy. He likes to say, "I don't know," because then that just gets y'all out of doing stuff, right? Like, that's
my go-to,
answer. Right? Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But no, he really caught on really quickly, and I used to say, this is not a government job. We work, we work really long hours and get paid for just a few of them. So unlike government where they work 40 hours and step out. No, he was really game. I think he really, and he does really good at letting me take the lead. He does real good with that.
Can I talk now?
Yeah, you can
okay. So
it's called, speaking of which,
it's called fake it till you make it, Mike, is what it, you just look confident and stand in the corner and she basically tells me what to do. But
that's so not true.
Not
now.
But to a certain extent, though, there was a learning process for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And not everybody can walk into that and be vulnerable and say, what, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. And men have a harder time with that than women, I think.
I don't have a problem with that. I've been doing that my whole career as an air traffic controller. But no, when we would go out and we go, look at houses and we purchase a house, I'd go, I didn't know what was good and what wasn't good to buy. And then, so it was an evolution there, and it was fun. It wasn't
business was really fun.
It's not technical. It's not difficult. It's simply, there's a house, buy it, don't buy it, put somebody in it, flip it.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So that was fun. What we're doing now has been an absolute learning.
That's been a learning curve for both of us.
But it's been fun.
Yeah.
It's been fun because it's like it goes from one thing to another to another.
We're never bored.
And we're always together. I talked about this with you last week. I think I said
before we knew about your questions.
And I don't even think about I don't even think about spending time other than playing golf.
Yeah.
I mean, I want her to play golf with me, and she won't because she doesn't want to embarrass herself.
Time to learn.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. But I mean, if she could go play golf, man, I'd love to take her playing golf. That's what I think is. Some people can do that, and some people can't. But she could be with me all the time, as far as I'm concerned.
As an aside, I remember when my wife and I were in our 20s. She said, you really ought to think about taking up golf. It would really help your career. And I said, let's watch a game of golf and see if you still think that, right? And, as you know, a game of golf is not like a game of darts. It's not over in 20 minutes. It's like, a game of golf is an all-day event. And to be any good at it where it does help your career, right? Because you're shooting 298. That's not going to help your career if every other ball is in the pond or,
Sure.
or hurt somebody. So, if you really want this, I'm out one day every weekend while it's warm until I get sort of good. It's like, never mind, your career is just fine.
Yeah, he does try to play just about every weekend. And so we do have time apart then. And, we're like most couples. We separate, like I go read and he watches a foreign film or some, documentary or.
We don't sit in the same office anymore.
No, we don't sit in the same. We did for a long time. We sat in the same office.
And then she let me have my own.
I didn't have to listen to every conversation though.
Well, and I'm curious, what was the dynamic that wanted you to have the same office? My wife and I share the same office at home, which means I'm normally out at Starbucks when she's working. But what made you want to do that, and then what changed that made you decide you didn't want to do that anymore?
She's on the phone constantly.
Yeah.
It's and I'm just getting up and leaving and finding another desk with a computer and working from there. So we had
fair.
She is never not on the phone, and I'm never on the phone.
So, yeah. So, I mean, the first thing is when we started this business, we just went into a space. We didn't know what we needed yet. We didn't know what size. We didn't know how many employees. We had no idea. And so we just kind of rented a small space and, it was like, okay, we know we need accounting in one. You can lock that door, those sorts of things. So look, there's one office left. Okay. We can put 2 desks in it. We can share it.
Okay.
And I think it was a good learning curve for you too, to be able to hear a lot of that. And then there are times that I have to kick him under the table. So there's certain,
She's done that twice already.
So there's certain conversations that I still have to say, there's certain jokes, or we'll say, no, he can't go to that meeting.
Okay.
Or,
so
sure.
I don't know.
No.
What?
You're not going to tell that joke.
I'm not going to tell the joke, but I'll give so anyway, no matter what, and this is strategic so I don't have to go to meetings, there's always a dead hooker joke
somewhere
in the meeting, and she's like, "You can't come." And I said, "Okay, great, that's fine." But I'm not in sales. I'm more operational. I'm not marketing. I'm not any of those things. I work with the people in the office more than I do people outside the office.
I wonder how much mileage I can get by threatening to do a dead hooker joke.
It works.
I'm going to try that.
He actually almost went to jail over that. So there's a real story there.
Yeah, well. I was on the phone with an attorney a couple of months ago, and he was talking about our terms and conditions, and he was
really negotiating.
And he was talking about, I can't remember what it was, so I threw the dead hooker at him.
This is your attorney,
right? I said, look, no, it's not my attorney. It was another company.
It was a client's attorney
that was doing our terms and conditions. They wanted to do business with us, but they had a problem with something in there saying, the liability part. And I was like, look, it's not like all these truckers have dead hookers in the back and they're running into busloads of nuns. I said, we got that covered. We have insurance for that. You don't have to worry about that. And there was silence. And our business partner, Chase, was jumping up and down, screaming silently at me, right? Because he was mad. And then the guy on the other end of the phone just started laughing.
It was one of those delayed, like you don't know exactly what's coming.
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming.
Yeah, so
I used to do it all the time.
There are certain times he can't go to meetings.
So I've observed 2 things about you guys because we're doing some things together a little bit, and one is that every time I've interacted with you as clients, you're always together.
Yeah,
which is interesting. Is that by design? Is that a business strategy? Or is it because 8 years later you're still newlyweds and you can't get enough of each other? What is that?
I think it's some of both. I mean, we even run errands together. Yeah. We, so, I mean, it was, and I think that's why we married. So to back up just a minute, when we got married, I mean, when we said we were getting married, my family was like, what the heck? Like, you plan everything's a plan for me. Like, and they were like, no, if you love him in a year, we can, hold off. And, I was like, no, I know what I don't want. And he's none of those things. So okay. I'm going to go for this. I was in my 40s, had been married 20 plus years the first time. So, I was like, no, we're going to do this. But I think a lot of that has to do with we just enjoy each other's company. Sometimes he'll go to work like this morning and it's like, we didn't do it today, but sometimes he'll leave and I won't see him and we'll end up in the same color. Like we'll come to work and I'll go, oh my God, we both wore blue. This is so stupid. How do we do this? But yeah.
I mean, then his little name patches,
yeah, exactly.
Right?
I mean, we're in sync sometimes just like that.
We look like old people.
Yeah, we do.
with those, I remember seeing my grandparents in a picture one time. They were both wearing the same jacket with those barrel buttons.
No, we don't do that.
No, I know that, but I'm like, how did they do that? But I can see how it happens.
Yeah, I really can.
Now, the other thing I've noticed is you guys laugh a lot.
Yeah,
and that's not just an act, is it?
No, I mean, and that was probably, I would say, the first night that we had dinner together.
Whoa. Where are you going with this?
Oh, stop it.
She said dinner.
The first night we had dinner together.
Yeah.
We laughed the entire, I mean, it's like, it was constant, the whole 2 hours that we had dinner together.
I'm a funny guy.
That's true.
Yeah. Next question, Mike.
You won the lottery.
No, but I think that laughter, I'm not trying to put anybody on the couch here, but that laughter, I think, is indicative of the kind of humor that you need to overcome the obstacles, right?
Yeah,
because
absolutely,
not everything has gone exactly the way that you wanted it to in business, correct?
For sure, this last 6 years. But yeah.
Right. So, talk about a crisis in business that you guys faced together.
Oh God, which
one?
You want to pick a subject?
No.
I mean, the juicier the better.
Yeah, I'm sure.
If there is a dead hooker involved, we can always revisit that.
Mike, I know I've told that joke to you in one of our meetings. I know for a fact that I know, but I just know I told it to him. And he's acting like he's so surprised he never heard this before.
I'm sure you haven't brought it up.
Oh my God. How many times have we had meetings?
Too many.
A lot.
We've had the same meeting 15 times. Don't tell me about it. I mean, because we come in there the same issue all the time.
So, as far as so many crises. So this has been the toughest business I've ever tried to learn to run.
Which one?
The being in transportation.
Okay.
Period. A lot of people that do this, they are brokers who worked for another broker who leave with a book of business. And pretty much even with my first husband, everything we did, we pretty much pioneered. They were, new ideas or there wasn't maybe just a couple of different companies doing it, but they were relatively pioneered industries. And so this one, we were like, this one over here said, well, how hard could this be? Yeah, famous last words.
I said that.
Right up there with hold my beer, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So I think, very first load we moved on the truckload side was a $40,000 claim. You are not prepared for that. I mean, you have no idea. We had no idea what we were doing. And my mentor said, good God, girl, can't you start at A, B, and C? Did you have to jump all the way to S? We literally immediately, our first official day of business, we'd kind of been doing it for like a month, trying to build up to getting business. So, that was the first one. And that was a real crisis because you don't know if you're on the hook we didn't know. Were we on the hook for the $40,000 or,
I knew.
God. But you did. You stepped us through all of that. You figured out what.
Yeah, it wasn't very difficult. I mean, the carriers are, they're the primary behind that. But and it turned out fine. But yeah, we've had plenty of times where, in these two businesses where we, stuff was, I don't know, something hits a fan or whatever, and you just gotta deal with it. It's a lot easier. I mean, I lean on her a lot, and then I'm the strong, silent type. because I don't have much smart to say, so I'm silent. And she appreciates that. Wow,
that didn't stop me.
No, yeah. So I mean, she's like, wow, you're just such a rock, and I can count on you to be, And I'm like, I'm not saying anything because I don't know what to say. But she's great at handling that kind of stuff, and she points in the right direction, and we go that way. There's no bones about who is the brains in the family, and. I don't want to say short bus, but I'm on a bus going somewhere. But no, we're going back to what we're talking about here. I enjoy being around my wife. We're best friends, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
Yeah, and I mean, anytime you start a business, I mean, like at any time in whether you buy one, whether you start it from scratch, or whatever you do, there's small crises almost every day, right? So we deal with a lot of that, but he's he plays that part really well. But he is the person I go to and say, "All right, hear me out. What do you think?" He calls them my 3:00 in the morning. Like I'll say, "Are you up?
That's
exactly are you up?"
What it is.
I'll say,
"That's exactly what it is."
Go make the coffee.
Are you up?
Are you up? Go make the coffee. And it's usually somewhere between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. We've had lots of those, as you talk yourself through this and what you're going to do and directions. And he's an excellent sounding board. And I usually come away from those talks with feeling really confident about, the decision we're going to make. So,
and I got to imagine that air traffic control, everything else just must sort of pale in comparison, right? And it's about working processes.
Yeah, but it's it's something that, and the thing about that is it's not the same every day, but it's it's proceduralized to a point, and then there's weather, and then there's bad rides, and then there's 9/11, right? There's something, but otherwise 99% of the time it's pretty proceduralized. You got guys coming in from here, they're going there. There's a profile that you need to create in your mind to keep them away from these guys that are going here, landing there, right? So basically, everybody who's entering your airspace is separated before they get there because you have a plan. Not so much in the business world. I mean, it changes every day. You can proceduralize anything you want, but you can't stop the wind from blowing, right? Yep. It just
especially
depends.
Transportation.
Yeah, especially transportation.
I mean, it's a combustible engine and a human being. And I mean, we have
nothing could go wrong.
Nothing can go wrong. But I don't know that there's any one crisis that like jumps out. There's just been, do you go left, you go right, do you go left, you go right. There isn't really a day that I go home and go, oh, well, that was so smooth today. And
it's all about the people you employ.
Yeah.
It really is in this business. If you don't have to, people you don't have to keep watching, right? You can trust them, do your job.
And we do a pretty good job, I think, of bringing on solid people that support us.
Yeah.
So, let me switch gears here. Has there ever been a point at which one of you has offered the other constructive criticism in the business area?
Oh, when we got here today,
Mike, no. The answer is no. I don't. Yes, she does.
Okay.
Yes, and it's not constructive. It's destructive. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but that's going to come up, especially because I imagine it's gone initially from, you, Carol, to Steve, because you were new to business generally and new to her businesses where she's a veteran, right? And there's the kick under the table, but besides the kick under the table, right? I imagine there's a debriefing, like you understand why I kicked you under the table, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I know before she does it, she's going to do it. I block her. Now she'll call me into her office and shut the door. I mean, she'll call me into her office and shut the door.
Oh boy.
So, I mean, I'm just saying, what other couples do that? Honey, I want you to come to my office, shut the door. What would you say? What would your wife say to you if you did that to her? She'd go, no.
Even on the internet, I could not say it.
Hey, exactly. I know you have a bleep button there. I was almost going to make you use it, but I do that. I understand that I don't understand. There are some things that I'm pretty good at, and there's some things that she's really good at, and sometimes she needs to talk to me about things that she's good at.
And where do you think you complement each other most? What do you guys think the other one brings to the table that that maybe you don't bring to the table as well on your own?
She brings hard work, integrity, smarts, know-how, experience, and good cooking.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily in that order, right? Not to mention the other stuff, right?
I think where he really compliments me is, first of all, he keeps it light all the time. He's 99% of the time, he's always in a good mood. I mean, I would say, he's rarely not laughing. He's rarely not making, joke. Yeah. And, he'll keep it where, a lot of times I'll spiral, entrepreneurs,
it's a very lonely place.
Yes, it is. We're really good at spiral. We're really good at, we're almost that, that whole like cyclical
manic depressive.
I was going to try not to say that word, but yeah, we are. And he'll bring me out of those lows. That's one of the things where he really compliments me. And he should have been a lawyer. He's really excellent with understanding legal documents, and
I watch a lot of TV.
Play one on TV.
No, I watch.
Yeah, but I don't remember William Shatner doing a lot of contract work on Boston Legal, so I'm not sure that you.
I loved him on Boston Legal.
Oh, I did too.
It was awesome.
I am, full disclosure, I am in the tank for William Shatner. I'll tell you, I like Star Trek fine, but the reason I'm in the tank for William Shatner, he doesn't run away from who he is. Right?
Yeah.
He's. I don't think he ever expected, certainly not in the last 40 years, never expected to earn an Oscar or an Emmy or whatever it is they give. Right? But all he does is just consistently gets work. Right?
He is hilarious. And, he went from being a tough guy, right? Early on, because he has the jaw and everything. Yeah. He was a tough guy. And now he's just kind of an old soft guy with, opinions.
Yeah.
And they're funny. I love it.
So I think that's where, there's really not a contract, or he handles all the legal side, most of the attorneys. Not you guys. Though I don't let him do. I don't let him do
wait
finance.
A minute, before
side.
you screw this whole thing up, we have attorneys. Okay, we use We use attorneys. She just brings stuff to me for my opinion, and then I work with the attorneys. But I mean, there are things that I enjoy about that part of the work, that it makes sense to me,
and that's fun. A big relief for me.
So let's talk about that, because it sounds like you do divide and conquer a little bit.
Yeah, we do.
What are some areas where you divide and conquer? So, Carol, you're going to take A, B, and C on. You're going to take, Q, R, and S on.
She made me fire people.
You're the hatchet man.
So when I was an air traffic controller for so long, and I was in management. I was a supervisor, and I was like, God, I just wish that we could fire some of these guys. I think it's just worst attitudes. But when I was a controller, I had the worst attitude in the world. So if I was my supervisor, I would have wanted to fire me. But so I made this remark to her, and she goes, fine, you're firing so-and-so tomorrow. And I fired somebody. I've never felt so bad in my life.
Okay.
And now if anybody needs to be fired, I don't fire them. We give that to somebody else.
Really?
Yeah, I got what I asked for, and it's no fun.
No, it's no fun.
It's no fun.
No, I mean, well, it's not like that happens a lot.
No, I'm just saying you made me fire people just to show me what it felt like to fire people, and it is not any fun.
No, you're changing people's lives.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
So, you pretty much run anything that has to do with the truckload side.
Yeah.
So he takes over especially all the operational side of that, not the sales side.
I am the visionary to yourLTL. I started all that.
You actually was your idea.
That's right. It's all my idea.
Goes back to you saying
I just don't know how to implement it. Like I said, I'm an idea guy.
Okay.
We're going to the moon next week. Okay. Building a rocket.
His transparency, all the stuff we talked to you about, the whole transparency, truly being.
If there are any shippers out there, we are the only transparent
broker
3PL.
Yeah, 3PL
in the nation. So there you go.
But yeah, so and I think probably what I run the business. I do all the finance side, salespeople, that sort of thing. So I think, and I think we know our roles. We come in, it's not like every day, like he comes to me and says, what do I do today? He gets to work 3 hours before I do. So, I think now it's more or less, we just kind of know what we're going to do. Yep. I think at first he really looked for direction. What do you need me to do? What do you need me to do? What do you need me to take care of? He doesn't do that now. I mean, he acts like he, comes to me for direction. He does not. He comes to me after he's done it, and I got to clean it up.
After 8 years, you know what it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
It's unlikely he's going to walk in and say, you know what? I need you to kill somebody today. I need you to kill a man. Right? You're not sort of expecting that kind of pivot, right? So, So what did anything surprise you about working together as co-founders, co-entrepreneurs, either on the positive or negative side?
She has less respect for air traffic controllers now, I think.
I would say that's probably
She won't fly anymore?
We take the bus everywhere, and rightly so.
I'm a lot. I said, so after I met him and I met a bunch of his friends, which I love, if any of you guys are listening, you know I love you. But
they're not listening. That's why I'm talking.
But we left and I was like, holy crap, I don't want to get on an airplane.
I wouldn't let her. I brought her up to this. I was down in Atlanta Center in Hampton, and I wouldn't let her come to. And that's the largest air traffic control facility in the world, busiest, biggest, all that stuff. I wouldn't bring her there until after we were married. And she said, "Why?" And I said, "Because they're all a bunch of jerks, and they're all going to make up stories and tell you I dated dudes and stuff, and they're gonna, they're just gonna. It's just going to be a terrible experience, and I want to be married to you before that happens."
They're going to talk about the time that you landed 2 747s naked,
Yeah,
basically.
No, well, that happened. Okay. That's true.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, truth is stranger than fiction sometimes.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. Really, you're better at the storytelling than I am.
I don't remember what we were talking about. What was it?
It
What
doesn't
was the
matter.
question?
Doesn't matter.
You always go off on a story about you.
Well, I almost went to a hooker, dead hooker joke, but
So everybody, you're listening to the Dead Hooker podcast, and we're here
That's
with
right.
Carol and Steve.
if you like, subscribe and thumbs up.
Deadhooker.com.
That's right. I got that, by the way.
No, you
From
don't.
GoDaddy. No, it's deadhooker.co.
See, now somebody's listening to
because
this, and they're
somebody
now
else has
typing, I got to see if that domain is available. I can only get deadhooker.biz.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, man, that's the lamest one. What about are there any mistakes you made early on that you need to learn from?
Jeez Louise. I mean, my list would be really long. You mean as a married couple? Or
Yeah,
just,
as a married couple in business. I mean, we don't need to get into that. It's personal stuff, but
No, I meant like
opening
business.
up that the property management company to bring on those international buyers instead of just selling to them. That was probably only because of the way that it happened. It was not a great transition. We got 300 and something houses, and we didn't know who was in them. We didn't know if they had agreements. We didn't know where they were. I mean,
we didn't know if they had mold.
The turnover, and a lot of them didn't. Some of the houses weren't even there. I mean, the turnover was not orderly. It was painful, to say the least. It took us 6 months to get our feet up under us. They just said, "Here you go." And none of it was correct. There'd be different people in the house. We had squatters. I mean, it was horrible. That was one big thing. So we should just kept selling them stuff instead of trying to manage their stuff. So.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, as far as where it relates just to a married couple working together, the first year was tough.
why?
Ooh.
Because my wife was alive, or my ex-wife, I'm sorry. My ex-wife was alive, and she had a telephone.
I'm talking about,
And
I'm not talking about that.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Disregard that last.
I'm talking about as a married couple working together, not personal stuff. That's not what he wants to know about.
Yeah, we're not putting you on the couch.
Nobody's listening to this. Go ahead.
So, well, he's a big personality, as you might have noticed. And I have a pretty big personality.
Yeah.
And he did not take direction very well the first year.
So you're saying I learned?
So so at some point did you ever say to him, is it that you can't learn or that you won't learn?
That was outside just a few minutes ago. Yeah.
Yeah, there was several of those conversations. It was like, look, if you want to do this, you really got to take direction. And I know you don't, his mother told me this one doesn't mind. He doesn't do well. I said, it's not about minding. I need him to just understand the process. And he would just, go off on his own and make a decision. And
right.
Remember the one renter?
I got a story after this since we're beating me up. Go ahead. No, have at it.
That's it. So that was that was really it. He just really couldn't take direction very well. So that took a while.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. What's your story?
I don't have one. I was just kidding.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
a threat. It was a baseless threat.
Okay.
So there is a quick renter story. So when we first started, he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna handle the renters. I think you're a little hard. You're a little harsh on them." And I said, "Okay." So he calls her and she gives him the story, right?
Okay, first that was a terrible setup for this story. So the story is,
this is what he does. Takes
yeah,
over.
yeah. So the story is that we had, I don't know how many houses, but we had some renters that were a little bit late with their rent, and we took over So I said, why do we have a management company? We'll do it ourselves. We'll manage. So
How hard can this be?
So we were managing all her houses on our. This one lady, oh well, my dog just died and everything else. Everybody died and everything. I said, honey, we can't kick her out. Everything just died. I mean, her plants died. Her dog. We can't do that. And then, so come to find out, her dog was fine. Her plants were fine. She just didn't want to pay, and so it just took a little longer to evict her than. But I was just a soft touch because I didn't think anybody ever lied.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not quite. And so.
Not in real estate.
No, not renters.
But what was really funny is we were on the phone. We were in the car on the phone going down to look at houses.
I remember that.
Yeah. And I said.
I was almost crying at her story. I swear. I said, honey, we can't kick her out. All these things just died.
And I said, honey, I want to show you something. I said, this is the second month her dad has died. He said, oh my God.
Yeah, you're going to need the bleep button again.
Like literally. And I said, he goes, I just fell for that. And I'm like, yeah, but.
I'm such a sucker.
He was a sucker. So that was some of the stuff that was
He's
tough.
a softie.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I am a big softie. But we did evict the hell out of her.
Well, at least there was a happy ending.
Yes,
to the
there
whole
was
story.
a happy end. That's right. We kicked her out and her children.
Good.
And I think we killed her dog. I'm not sure. No, I'm just kidding.
One
we
way or the
didn't.
other.
No, we
One way or
didn't.
the other, something was dying.
I love dogs. But her kids, they were out. I love dogs, though.
So, but he's good at taking direction now.
Yes, ma'am.
Guys, this has been a great interview. We're running out of time. We need to get you on to your weekend.
Mike, if you have to leave, we'll continue. I don't know,
Oh, well, you know what? You asked me questions. We can just, no, we do need to wrap it up and let you guys get back to your businesses and your lives and your weekend. But I can't thank you enough for agreeing to come on. If somebody's kind of thinking about this, that they're thinking of going into business as a married couple, I mean, it sounds like you guys are a great example of what to do. Can they contact you guys for advice?
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
can call Carol. Her number is. It's Carol at.
Which one?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Which one?
Yeah, you can. Seriously, they can. I mean, use my Carol at yourLTL.com, or the office number is 619. What is it? 67. I always give my cell phone because I'm always on the phone. 619
678.
678.
Follow this. 678 619 4316. And then follow the prompts to Carol.
There you go.
Steve is not on there.
And you may have to put in a little prompt in your IVR for marriage counseling.
Yeah,
Press
exactly.
7.
Yeah, exactly.
That's going to wrap it up for today's program. I'd like to thank Carol and Steve so much for joining us and sharing their expertise with us. We'll be exploring a new topic each week, so please tune in so that when you're faced with your next executive decision, you have clear vision when making it. If you enjoy these podcasts, please consider leaving a review with your favorite podcast aggregator. It helps people find us so that we can help them. Once again, this is Mike Blake. Our sponsor is Brady Ware & Company, and this has been the Decision Vision Podcast.